It's great to have you here, Seth. Now, I've been through our LinkedIn connections and I see we've got some really good friends in common here. And I don't know how well you know Philip Pagels, Jed Morris, Maria Hoyge, Adam Coffey, Sissy Ma, Paul Dunn, Janine Jacob, birthday yesterday. Happy birthday,
Yep.
Janine.
Happy
And
birthday.
Danny Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Adam and I probably talk at least once a week, and Adam and I actually, I when Adam started his new firm, I was one of his first clients at one of my other portfolio companies. And then in my business, Adam is on our virtual team, and he serves as the executive chairman of one of our companies.
Well, he is known as the chairman.
That's right. Yeah, Adam and I work very, very closely together.
Well, I think you're underestimating how very close. You even made his Empire Builder book.
Oh, I did. You're right. And actually, you were right. And Adam is writing the foreword to my first book. He's inspired me to. Adam's been a really good source of inspiration for me. I tend to be quite shy and below the radar, and he's really encouraged me to come out of my shell a bit. And so, my first book should be, we're targeting October for the book to come out. And I'm also following his example. And I've got the next one and the next one, at least, in my mind on what we want to share next with the market. And he's been so kind as to write the foreword. And I just owe so much of a debt of gratitude for Adam for his friendship and collaboration and mentorship.
Oh, it's amazing. Yes, doing my research on you, they're the types of things that I found as I was coming up with. But you've also got your own podcast as well?
I do. I'm getting ready to do version 2 of it. That was my first kind of, I don't do a lick of marketing. That's about to change as well. Everything is organic and word of mouth. Probably how we found each other, Craig. I probably posted something silly about one of my dogs on LinkedIn or something. You're like, hey, let me talk to this guy. One of my favorite shows on television is on Netflix. It's called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld. I love the show. And it's Jerry and another comedian.
I'm sorry, not a fan.
It's okay. It's all right. I get it. But I love the show. I love the show. And these are, he's there with another comedian that he's known for a long time that he's friends with. And they go to the guest's favorite diner and they just talk to each other as if the mics aren't there. And I really, I found that really interesting. I'm like, I'd like to do something like this. And my favorite diner is just around the corner over here, S&G Diner in Chicago. And so we called the podcast Diners and Deals. And I sit down with my friends on the podcast the same way as if we were sitting down at breakfast chit-chatting. And it's like the mics aren't there. And we just kind of get them to share their journeys and talk about, what's made them who they are and the wisdom and the life lessons. And so it's just been such a joy. Now, the issue was I don't have recording equipment like Netflix. So we ended up taking it to a lounge, but we still call it Diners and Deals. And I'm working on getting ready to launch the second version of this concept. And it's going to be the Founders Book Club. And we've actually just, it's going to be me and 3 or 4 other founders that will always be on it. And we're reading a book right now called Identity by Robert Fritz. Robert Fritz his first book was in 1984. It's called The Path of Least Resistance. And fundamentally, it's and I think a lot of founders and CEOs share this and a lot of very successful people, a lack of self-confidence or a negative self-belief about themselves from an identity perspective. But that negative self-belief does not get in the way of them achieving what they want to achieve. And so Fritz's work, which is based in neuroscience, and he's written and published for 20 years, Identity was really a culmination of his work, which tells you to put the beliefs about yourself aside, imagine the life that you want, the world that you want to create, the company that you want to create. And no matter what your beliefs are, put that aside, put down that existential question and just go focus on execution and the life that you want to lead and the life that you want to build. And so anyway, that's what the book is about. And so that's going to be the first one we bring into Founders Book Club. It's one that I chose, and then my founders will all pick a book and get back together and share our thoughts on how it's impacted us and kind of share kind of what I'd say are the inner workings of the founder, of the CEO, of the entrepreneur that just don't get talked about enough, I don't think. So we're going to kind of basically come together in a peer group and act as if the cameras aren't there and hope that people connect with that and learn from that.
I was chatting with someone yesterday and she said, I always feel as though I have imposter syndrome, that I'm not the person that I am portraying out there in the field. And that is what comes to mind when you talk there. But there is a very big difference, I believe, between imposter syndrome being, well, I guess in AI terms, hallucinating, where you're just not in reality at all.
Yeah, well, they are obvious. Yes, these are different things, right? But I would say that imposter syndrome kind of goes along this line, right? Because and here's the thing: as you take a look at like how Fritz and Anderson categorize this, there are basically 4 ways of being: positive self-conception, low ability; positive self-conception, high ability; negative self-conception, high ability; negative self-conception, low ability. Now, you could have just the opposite of imposter syndrome, and you could think that you are God's gift to the earth, right? And have this, elevated view of yourself. But if you don't have the ability to execute, you're really not going to get much done.
Thank you. That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. And so this grounding, the grounding in reality is what are my abilities? And I talk to a lot of young people about this, about what is the life that you want to create? What are you great at? And depending on what your life goals are, how do you put yourself into an environment where you can create the life that you want? And I'm separating out self-conception. I'm separating out identity. I'm separating out passion and all these other things. And I'm really kind of keying in on what is the life that you want to build? How do you want to be living your days? How do you want to be working? But imposter syndrome, in many cases, where we see that showing up, and by the way, I'm not a psychologist. This is a lot of the work that I ended up doing, just to pause on this for a second, a lot of the work that I ended up doing is actually based off of Fritz's work. I just didn't know it until I discovered Fritz. And it's really structural dynamics. And it's what I really learned as a coach and as an athlete. I was a Division I basketball coach. I was a Division I coach. I actually had a young player, Hugh Thompson from Australia, who was on one of the young men that I coached at Rice University in Houston. But it's, where are you today in reality, right? Where can you go? And then are you willing to do the work to achieve that desired state? You can edit, correct? Because I need to plug in my computer. I've been traveling. So we're going to have to pause there for a second. I got to go get I'll read you something from one of Fritz's books on this topic. It seems that many people in this movement have never read one of the many biographies of successful people. If they had, they would be shocked to learn that the majority of the most successful people in history have had low self-esteem. We could say imposter syndrome. Mariah Carey said, "I've always had really low self-esteem, and I still do." David Bowie said, "I have enormous self-image problems and very low self-esteem." Bob Dylan said, "All I can do is be me, whoever that is." And it's not just successful rock stars who have had low self-esteem. So did Einstein, Hemingway, Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt, Robert Kennedy, Joe DiMaggio, Amelia Earhart, Edison, Elvis, Cary Grant, Alfred Hitchcock. The list goes on. Their success was not a factor of identity, but of something more powerful and enduring: the motivation to accomplish the outcomes they wished to create. In other words, they focused upon what they were creating, not upon themselves.
Yes, absolutely. When you were talking earlier, I was just trying to get, wait. You've got to take action. I am guilty. I really am. I have not taken the action that I needed to have taken when I should have taken it. And in August last year, all that changed.
What changed, Craig?
My situation changed, and I was on my way over to see my coach in Bali, and I got over there, and just before that, my role had finished, my job had finished. So I got over there. I said, okay, I'm an open book. I have enormous skills in so many different areas. Tell me what I should do. And he said, you should be doing M&A. He said, it's going to take you 6 months to get out from under the umbrella of KPMG and EY and all of those. 6 months because you're going to have to build your brand. You're going to have to build your credibility. The podcast was part of that process. It actually took, and this is what I really hate about coaches, is they're right so many times. It took about 6 months and 2 weeks. And then the phone calls started coming
Wonderful.
in. The people started coming to me because I wasn't doing, as you said, the advertising, and I don't. It's all organic for me. You look at my LinkedIn profile, and I had someone say to me the other day, "You've got too many LinkedIn recommendations." I said, "How can you have too many?" But anyway, so yes, it seems like 50 LinkedIn recommendations is too many LinkedIn recommendations.
That I don't know, but it's interesting. And there are, are you familiar with the work of Viktor Frankl?
I know the name. I don't know his
book called Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and
Right.
he was a therapist going into it, and then coming out of it, he created what he called logotherapy, right? And in logotherapy, it's all about finding your purpose and living that purpose. It's another manifestation of what we're talking about. The reason that logotherapy is not really popular in Western cultures is because what Frankl would first ask you is, if you were Craig to repeat that question, what should I do? And this is the question I would ask. Frankl would probably ask it as well. He'd ask it a little bit differently and say, what do you think you should be doing? What do you want to become? What kind of life do you want to live? Now, if in logotherapy, if the patient or the person he was coaching could not come up with an answer in Western psychotherapy and Western psychology, we won't make a recommendation. Right. And many coaches won't make a recommendation, right, in business to the client. So you might flounder. What Frankl would do is he would suggest, he would say, here's what I think you should do. And then you've got a choice, Craig, right? Which is, oh, you know what? That sounds like me. I'm going to go try that on. And you're going to go do it. And you know what? In the doing, whether or not that suggestion that you tried on was right or wrong, it's going to set you into motion, right? To figure out how you want to live the life that the life that you want, right? And so I'm glad he set you on that path. I think that what a lot of people are afraid of is, well, what if I get this wrong, right? Well, and they don't take the risk in many cases. And we see this a lot in large corporations, because large corporations don't really reward risk taking. But of course, entrepreneurs, it's what we do every day. It's what we do. And it's like me launching this book, you doing some marketing, you doing a podcast. What are you doing? You're learning. Through this process, you're willing to take calculated risks, put yourself out there and learn. And, like when I started my company a few years ago, it's a whole story behind that I won't go into. I did not have a plan. I had people that were asking me to help them, and I had always helped people for free. It's just part of what I did. Part of it was rooted in my own self-conception and lack of self-confidence. And I was running companies for other people and stepping into situations and taking over. And I had told myself that, very much like this commercial that I had listened to growing up by a chemical company, they said, we don't make the thing we make the thing better. And so I would always step into other people's companies and help that company or that CEO achieve the thing they wanted to achieve. And this is the first time that I've then gone and created my own company from scratch. And so I question every day whether or not I can do it, yet it's what I want to do. And so despite what I think, I'm doing it. But at the beginning, I didn't have a design. And now here I am a few years later, for the first time, putting in place, actually designing and shaping the company. And I tell you this, I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes along the way, but that's okay, because those mistakes are going to teach us, right, what direction we should be heading. Don't have to have it figured out. It's okay to figure it out as we go along. So I'm so glad. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you doing the type of work that you've wanted to do?
I'm excited and revved up every single day, and I'm loving the people that I'm meeting. I'm loving the work that I'm doing. I am frustrated as hell in several ways. I'm like you, I can't help enough people. There's so many people out there. And here we go. You're talking about ego before. The biggest problem that I have with people is that they don't come and ask me enough questions. So I want more people to come and ask me questions. The second thing that I'm frustrated with is that you said that you're putting a plan together. Well, I spent 3.5 months putting a plan together, and I mapped it all out. I've put in all the steps. I've laid it all out. Now, life gets in the way a little bit, so sometimes times slip, but that plan is where I'm going. That is what I'm doing. There is no doubt in my mind at all. I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm doing and where the next 6 years will be. And I know people say, oh, you shouldn't plan more than 5 years because, well, it doesn't matter. because I know the end result. And it's like, as Adam Coffey would say with his flight, there are navigational
Absolutely.
changes. But if you know where the end result is, care if it's 5.5 years or 7 years.
That's right.
I know where it is. I know what needs
Yeah,
to happen.
that's right. And I think Mike Tyson said everyone's got a plan and then they get punched in the face, right? So
Well, he stole that off Lord
is that
Nelson.
right?
Because he did. Lord Nelson wasn't as crass as that, of course. His was everybody goes into battle with a plan until the first shot is fired.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and I'm the same way. I know exactly where I would like to be and how I would like the business to be and what I would like my role in the business that I created to be like 3 years from now. I've got a very clear vision of that. I am intent on manifesting that. I may or may not get there. It doesn't matter. I'm doing it because, and this is the first time in my life I would tell you that I am doing exactly what I want to do, 100% self-directed with no input from anyone. Zero. It was really important to me that for me to go down this journey, that I was number one, choosing to do this, that it was not being suggested to me. That number two, what I'm creating and the way that I'm structuring the firm is coming from me, that it's a reflection of me, that it's a reflection of the lessons that I've learned and my beliefs and how I want to deliver value, to the market. And so I feel blessed that I am operating from that position. It doesn't, none of it frightens me because it's what I want to do. And if that changes, then so be it. And it's not that I don't wake up with anxiety or have the usual, the normal anxieties of any business owner or founder, making payroll and all the other stuff as you scale. That's all.
That's day to day. Yeah. Detail. Yeah.
I know where I'm going. I hope that I get there. If it takes 5 years or whatever, that doesn't really matter. And along the way, if I change my mind a bit again about where we're going, it's mine to steer.
I've got to pull you up there because I don't know that you're telling us the whole story here. So I want to go in a bit deeper there. You say that you're doing this by your own.
My own conception. I have a team.
Surrounded yourself.
But without
you've got a great team.
But without
I've looked at all
suggestion.
Your
people. And I can tell you what I mean by that. A lot of people who are close to me know that I have a health condition. I have a mental. It's technically a brain trauma. I suffer from a condition called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and so this neurological manifestation stems from severe childhood abuse that went untreated for a very long time.
Been there, done that.
And so, the first thing that I really latched onto as I was coming out of that, pulling myself up out of that life, was athletics and was basketball. And gosh darn it. And it was really interesting. Someone put a basketball in my hand when I was 11 years old and told me I had potential. Now, all they meant was that I was tall. I didn't know that though. I just heard I had potential, but I set my mission to become an athlete and to become a basketball player. And, injury is what ended the sport for me. And so very, very early into my career, after my 9th surgery when I was 19 years old, I had to stop playing and I went into coaching. And I always wanted to play professionally and then coach. Started to coach and just emotionally I had to get away from the game. And then I went to start to recreate a life outside of athletics. And it was as if my whole identity had been ripped away from me. And along the way, I had some lucky breaks, figured out I was really good at sales. And along the way, and my conception was, I'm just going to become a head of sales for an organization or whatever. And I was doing M&A as well. Along the way, when I went back to business school, someone suggested to me that I should be a CEO. It's nothing that I ever conceived of myself. It's not a goal that I ever set. It's just like, what the hell? Here I am trying to figure it out. I'm going to accept that goal. And I gave myself 15 years to do it. And I did it by year 12. And then I did it a number of times. And what I can tell you, even though I am the owner and founder of my organization today, my company today, I actually don't think I ever enjoyed being a CEO. I learned a lot, but I don't think it's ever what I was meant to do. But having done it, I can now tell you that. And even though I'm technically the CEO of my company, I have a different way of operating. And it's something I have no desire to ever do again, is to certainly run someone else's business, but I don't even, this feels like fun to me, what I'm doing. And I don't carry a title CEO. I carry a title founder, because I don't have a desire to ever be a CEO again.
Okay. I wanted to show you, before I was leaning over to my bookcase to grab something, because I wanted to show you something. Is this going to be
Unfortunately, I can't see it because your background is blurring it from me.
Anyway, my background. Here we go. Let's see if I can get rid of the background. No, don't know how to do that. Anyway, it's called 100 Lunches with Strangers by Kaylee Chu. Kaylee Chu lives about 1 kilometre from me, or did. She's taken this 100 Lunches with Strangers book and she's run with it. She's now turned it into a TV show. It then went to a podcast. It then went to a TV show. She's now in the US doing this 100 Lunches with Strangers concept.
Wonderful.
And it came back from what you were talking about before, about meeting up with founders. She wanted to go and meet people. And given that we in Melbourne here were the most locked down city in the world, hasn't always been easy to do, by the way. But yes, I will stick that as a note at the end of this, by the way. 100 Lunches with... And I'll see if I can get you a copy of that.
Thank you.
Now, we haven't covered anything about who you are. We've mentioned your company, but...
Does it matter?
In all seriousness,
does it matter? What would you like to talk about? We can talk about, Craig, we could talk about whatever you would like to talk about.
Okay, fine. Let's do that then. You've moved into businesses. You've moved into your own business. You see a number of businesses yourself. You talk about growth. You talk about executive coaching. Now, the thing that I see when I go into a business, any business, I don't care how big they are, and I've done 8, 9, and 10-digit M&As myself, so I don't care about the size. But there are 13 pillars to a business. You've got finance, HR, payroll, IT, property, sales, coaching.
I don't know how you pulled out that in your head.
All of those pillars.
Yeah, okay. Fair. Yes, there's a bunch of shit. That's right.
But the reason these businesses don't succeed and don't get the numbers that they're after is because they do not have all of those pillars covered. They're not experts. They don't have the best people involved with those pillars. And that's where I see businesses, EBITDA and sales fall down because of those. What is your strategy for supplementing those and making those better? And I know without even asking that that's what you do.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'll give you the best answer I can. How about that?
That's all we ask for on this show.
I always tell people I'm a simple-minded overachiever, so which I think is somewhat true. I break things down to some I've got to break things down to very fundamental things, because often we're dealing with very complex things, complex systems, and in any organization you've got to get everyone bought into the vision of where you want to go. But there are two really important things, I think, in business, the most important from my perspective. Number one, start with a good business as opposed to a bad one. That helps, because I work a lot with investors that are looking at companies to buy. I also work with founders. I work on both sides of the equation. I've worked in Fortune 500 companies. I've started my own company. I've done acquisitions of companies as little as 500,000 of EBITDA. I've done an acquisition of a company with 10 billion in revenue. So all across the board, and all the same stuff shows up as you mentioned. And for me, it's two things. Start with a good company. Have a really, really clear understanding of where you want to go and what you stand for, right? And what as a firm. And number three is surround the company with great talent. Those three things. Everything else tends to take care of itself. Now, I say this I come back to reality and constraints. And as an undergraduate, I went to the Baker Institute of Public Policy at Rice University. I was a major in war studies. War studies teaches us the theory of escalation. It teaches us the theory of constraints. There are real constraints in any business, and there are especially real constraints in small businesses. These constraints are this: time, talent, and money. It's really simple, right? So between where you are and where you want to go, then you have to say, okay, who are the people that I need to do it, right? In what order, and what can I afford? Because not every company is Amazon, right? Not every not every company is Telstra. Not every company is National Bank of Australia. Not everyone can have the cream of the crop necessarily. What you need are the best people for your culture in your industry, given this where you are and where you want to go, to do the things that you as the owner or founder or CEO cannot, right? And as opposed to working on your weaknesses, you need to supplant them with people who are strong in the areas where you are weak. And so, oftentimes we are taking a look at, again, the gap to goal, where I am now, where I want to go. And it's always, every single time, it's a people problem. Question is, and it's just true. Sometimes, sometimes it's also.
It is true every single time.
That, it could be me, the coach or advisor or board member, but it could be the founder or CEO. We have the hardest time getting out of our own way. Every human, right, has a hard time. Most humans have a hard time, especially from Western society, looking at reality, separating ego, looking at this structure, this business structure, looking at the goals, separating their ego out and saying, also, what role should I be playing? What is it about me as the leader that is blocking the company from realizing its potential? What are the things that I need to do differently if I can honestly, realistically self-assess? And if I am truly committed, as opposed to just talking about going from here to there, am I willing to take the steps? Then it just becomes a function of what people and what sequence. Every situation is different. In some cases, I can tell you that we're starting with the successor to the founder. In other cases, I can tell you that we're dealing with we need to put a new COO in at the beginning. In other cases, it could be a chief commercial officer. In other cases, it could be a CFO. It's very situational dependent based off of the company, what it does, the founder, the rest of the team. But it's usually, it comes down to people, because at the end of the day, we can have all the ideas in the world. You said, you're right, you wrote down your plan. Right? You can put down the best plan in the world. If you have not built a team to execute, you're just not going to get anywhere. And I think I crossed this chasm. It is the blessing of what happened to me, 9 surgeries between the ages of 16 and 19. And I came back and I came back and I came back, and then the doctors wisely would not clear me to play again. And I became a coach. Here's the thing about the athletic environment that's different than the business environment, at least in the modern era of athletics. I cannot step on the court to get things done as the coach of a basketball team or a football team in today's modern era. All I can do, right, is field the team to achieve the objective. Everything in that environment has to be done through others. If you think about this, right? Now, in the case of business, we get to be player coach if we want, right? We can also step to the role of the owner's box, right? But if we really self-assess first and foremost, which is the hardest thing to do, to truly go inside, that is typically the origin of the issue, which then permeates culture. And bad culture does not enable you to get the talent that you want.
Now,
sorry, that was a very long-winded answer to your question. I tried to make it as simple as I could.
No, it makes sense. No, it makes sense. We were talking about podcasts and which version of podcasts, and I said, I'll be looking at version 5 coming up soon, even though I'm only on version 3 now. But I'm also on version 5 of Craig Keegan as well, because the other versions would not have got me to where I am now. And this version's not going to get me to where I'm going to be either. Now, I didn't even bother putting myself in as CEO of my company because I knew I was unfit. Yes. I cannot do routine. I cannot do day to day. It doesn't fit in my brain. I am a creative person. I need to be able to I'll create something. I'll do something different. But if you put me in charge of doing something day to day, like looking after people,
hire someone to do that. You're still the CEO. CEOs come in.
That's exactly what I did.
We all come in different versions. Some people come we all come with our history, with our knowledge, with our experience, whatever got us there. Some of us come from sales and M&A, like I did. Some of us come from marketing. Some of us come from accounting. Some of us come from the line. And I've got a dear friend who is the CEO of a very large grocery company who started at that company as a bagger, literally as a bagger. I've got a friend that runs a private equity firm in the automotive industry who started as a line worker in a Honda plant, right? We all come from the path here is we all come with who we are. We all come with our legacy. We all come with strengths and weaknesses. It is a matter of understanding truly who you are and the type of team that you need to build around you to manifest your end objective, right? I am ADHD, so
aren't we all?
Yeah, I'm like severe, like the real deal. And now I'm now medicated for that, and I tell you, it has really helped a lot. And I can do more task-oriented things now that I'm actually treated, as opposed to just being like, it's for me, it's a real thing, right? Yeah,
Like
yeah.
me.
And I was always that way as a child, you know. But in any case, but you know, my business partner Gordon, who's been with me across many companies for 15 years, you know, she is the COO of. She does COO work for our clients, and she's the COO here, and that enables me to do what I do best, which is to understand the market and figure out what we're going to be and how, at a high level, how to then operationalize that and structure that. But then she collaborates with me in that process. I'm typically originating that vision. We're refining that vision. Then she is implementing that vision. I have no business being there. And it creates a wonderful partnership that's, you know, Jordan and I have now been together for 15 years, and hopefully we'll be together until she takes over this thing. It's a wonderful collaboration. And I'm that way with all the functions and all the businesses that I've built. What I've always been is someone who can really understand. The thing that I do best is I really understand what a market needs and how to position a company to capture sustainable growth and margin in a market. I am a rearranger of markets, and I typically do it in professional services. I started in other fields, but I've been doing it in professional services now for many, many times, and rearranging a company to service a market in a way that, you know, captures, you know, sustained profitable growth. So, but I am an experiential learner. I really have to spend a lot of time in the market to figure out how the pieces come together and then to go execute on that. And so my teams give me a lot of grace. Now I'm always there on our Monday morning meetings because I did come up operating businesses, right? So I didn't know this about myself until later in my career, and I've operated in some very difficult environments and really cut my teeth. I couldn't do this today had I not had to do all the things that were uncomfortable, right? And I've been through the learning curve, and now I've got a lot of reps under my belt. So, but I've built a life and a career where I can simply put myself in a position to do the things that I'm great at, and if things continue, I never take the world that I've created for myself for granted. I never take for granted for a moment how fortunate I am to be able to operate this way. Jordan would say I've earned it. I would say that I'm very lucky and I'm very blessed.
Well, you have to put in the steps to actually get there. So yes, you don't just arrive, you have to put in all the work to get there. Seth, I think we could talk for ages. However, I did something an hour and 3/4 ago. I made 3 big announcements for what I'm doing. I would like to include you in on those announcements now, I think. The 3 announcements that I made were that I've gone live with a methodology called the BGSC. Second one is, as of next week, I will be starting a weekly mastermind group for M&A and scaling and growth. And at the end of October, I will be hosting a M&A virtual summit. The first day will be in the US, the second day will be in Australia, and the third day will be in the UK. Wonderful. So I would love to send you some information on that summit and see if we could get you on board for that.
I'll try. I will be honest and let you know that Halloween in the United States is a major. I throw my big corporate party on Halloween. Last year, Craig, we had
When's that?
October 31st. Last year, Craig, we had 1,500 people. 1,500 people. at our bash. If you're doing something just a little, you might want to think about your dates. I would be happy to participate.
I will be thinking
just
about it
know
today.
that don't do it on October 31st in the United States, or even like the day or before after, because if you have kids, it's a big, or if you're a big kid like me, it's a big thing.
Thank you so much. Halloween in Australia is pretty much a nothing thing, so it would never even cross my mind.
Yeah, big thing here. Last year we had fire eaters, stilt walkers, balloon artists. We do tons of live entertainment.
Wow.
We do a whole, it's my corporate party, and we do a big block party as well for the neighborhood.
Thank you so much.
As you're thinking, I would be honored to participate and contribute if I can. I need a little buffer. I need a little buffer, my man.
Very good. Thank you so much, Seth. It has been an absolute pleasure. I'm so glad that we were able to catch up.
Have a great evening, or day, I should say. See ya.